on. Honestly, ladies, I think it's one of the hardest and most challenging things that, that a lot of us will go through in our life. For me, it was totally unexpected and it was devastating. But I just knew in my heart that I didn't want it to define me, and I didn't want it to damage the relationship that my kids had with their dad, and that I wanted not to lose everything that we had because of our separation and, going through our divorce. So a lot of it is being able to look at it objectively and trying to make sense of it in a way that's going to have the minimum amount of impact. And I don't believe that it needs to be devastating for the whole family and the family unit, but it definitely is extremely painful and something that has to be worked through. So that's probably it in a short answer. But Cody, you give us your take, and then we will just extrapolate this out, ladies, a bit. And because there isn't one answer for everyone. Everyone's circumstances are very different. And yet there's patterns. Regardless of what he did or whatever happened, we want to focus on you and getting you to move forward so you're free of the pain. So that's our intention for you.
Ultimately, what we want to really focus on here is, while there is a saying that once a cheater, always a cheater, now that is a saying and it's spread everywhere. And, it's easy to say that, right? Because in a lot of cases, it's true, but it's not always true. And what we really want you to be cautious and conscious about is not characterizing someone as their behavior, right? Because someone may have exhibited a behavior or done something which was not obviously good. It was not positive, it was not constructive, and it wasn't beneficial to your relationship. Cheating being one of those things. Very painful one, complete betrayal, and it is so easy to be devastated in this sort of situation, which is why we're very conscious of being sensitive about it, because we know how painful it can be. But just because someone cheated does not mean they are a cheater and will always cheat, and you can never trust them, and you can never trust another man or any of that sort of thing. If someone has cheated once, or if they've cheated multiple times, there's something that needs to be addressed, because the person is not getting their needs met. And I'm not saying that it's your fault that they're not getting their needs met if you've been cheated on, right? But in some way, they feel as though they aren't getting what they want from the relationship. It doesn't necessarily mean a judgment of you. It can just be that you guys as a couple aren't communicating well, or in some cases, despite trying very hard to communicate, which I know a lot of people do, they aren't communicating effectively and really getting through to each other. Or sometimes it's just a case of you come to a realization that you are not a good fit together, which can be very challenging. But other times you are a good fit, you're just not communicating well.
So the unfortunate thing there is that often people don't have the emotional skill set and the emotional intelligence to, when things aren't going right or when they feel like they're becoming disengaged in a relationship, often cheating is a way of taking you out of the relationship. Now, this is very often subconscious. It's not even a conscious decision for a lot of people, because what happens is the minute we start to make a story in our head that we're unhappy and that, our needs aren't being met, we will often, that sows the seeds for discontent. And when we get feeling uneasy, when we're feeling unloved, we start to gather evidence to support our story. And this is why it's so powerful to look at the stories that we're telling ourselves, because when we start to disengage, we literally start to put our protection on and we start to step back. And there's a cycle of relationships and how they break down. And the first part of the relationship breakdown is resentment. And so then you get resentful. So then you start pulling back, and both partners are doing this. Now, in my experience with both coaching men and women, even though one party cheats, the other party was probably never happy or not happy in that, you know, where the relationship was either. So one person wasn't having their needs met and they looked outside the relationship, but very often the other person's not happy either. They might be getting their love from another source. It might be from the children, or it might be from their career. But the thing is that where the division comes, when couples are under stress, and if you want to grow a healthy relationship, you need to come together at those times. And if you don't come together, you start to come apart. And when you're starting to come apart, you will then start to get your significance and your love from wherever you can. Now, when we sow that seed in our head that we're not happy, we're then looking for all different excuses and examples of why we're not happy, because we all like to be right and we all want to be justified in the decisions we make. So very often what we see is, from when someone starts to check out, it may not have been their intention to go and have an affair, because that's like a conscious decision. Whereas what could happen is they then are discontented at home, but someone else is paying them attention somewhere else. And then that attention starts a bit of flirting, and then the flirting, you know, starts into conversations, and then it's texting. Now, at this stage, it can just be an emotional affair. And so a lot of ladies have sat back and seen at this stage, well, you know, he's texting a lot, he's taking morning phone calls or late night calls. This feels wrong, you know, and their intuition is telling them it's wrong. And that's the very early stages of the relationship already breaking down. And both parties, neither at that stage are happy, but often they don't have the tools to be able to come together and repair it. And so then it's just a slippery slide downwards, where, you know, someone else is getting their needs met elsewhere, and then it eventually falls apart. So there's no easy answer, but there's definitely signs that you can be looking for. And the more you can come together and work through it, you can actually get through infidelity, but it takes two committed parties to do that. And I believe you can be married, or you can have a new relationship after you've been through infidelity, if both parties are prepared to work and to be able to show up and do that work and learn to trust each other again, and they've got enough stake in the game to rebuild. But it's very hard to do if there's only one party wants to do that. And very often the emotional component comes in, and even if they're both saying that they want to, we have to be able to let go of and process our own pain, or else we keep using it as a weapon against our men. And I'm talking men, women here. This is totally reversible, remember, because there's as many women who have affairs as what there is men. And lots of our ladies that we deal with also have affairs. And for the ladies, there's a lot of guilt and shame, and they carry that for years. So, you know, it affects everybody. So, but you can rebuild after an affair, but you will not have the same relationship. It has to be a new relationship. So you might stay married, but you need to start from scratch again, and you need to get new tools, and you need to commit to together to work through it. Just accepting someone back after an affair and hoping, wishing, and you know, wanting it to change, won't change the underlying emotional damage. That has to be physically worked through.
There's two people involved in a relationship breakdown. It's never just one person. And it's not about blame or about judgment. It's about realizing what could be improved in communication, in meeting each other's needs. And the biggest reason why to do this is if you don't want to get back with the other person, right? Because the trust has been destroyed and you aren't fully committed to doing that, or they're not fully committed to doing that, that's okay. but you still need to learn this stuff so that when you go into your next relationship, you are fully healed. You've learned to trust yourself and your ability to trust someone else, because that's a really, really challenging thing, you know, which a lot of ladies struggle with, is how do I trust myself to know whether the other person is a good person or not? Because I thought the other person was everything I wanted, and I thought we had a great relationship until it fell apart. So how do I trust myself to lower my barriers and to let someone in again? It's not an easy thing. I mean, as I'm sure most of you ladies out there listening are aware, it's a very challenging thing. Yeah. But you can do it. And as Fiona said, that is only possible is if both parties are fully ready and fully committed to making their relationship work. And that involves accepting responsibility on both sides. So if you aren't ready to accept responsibility, sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, and I was going to say that I believe that both parties have to be working on themselves to be able to have the skills and the tools to take the relationship, you know, to the next level, because it's going to be more challenging than in the past, because you've got a whole nother component thrown in there. You've now got the trust issue and the distrust issue. And so when we're hyper vigilant and when we're, you know, extra sensitive, that's just going to make the relationship even more challenging. So unless you're going to both be working on yourselves and then coming together and working together as a couple, you know, I think that that's a really hard road to go down. Now, is it easier to walk away? Look, at the end of the day, you know, my husband came back and I wasn't ready to let him go. You know, like I've got friends who, minute their husbands had affairs, that was it. They cut them off and there was no coming back. Whereas I was devastated and I couldn't let him go, and I let him come back. And he had a foot each way. You know, we had the girlfriend in Thailand and he had me here, and he did this yo-yo, you know, month there, and then he'd come back and tell us that it's all going to be, you know, great. He's left her, and then he'd be home for 3 days. Not that we were sleeping together, but, you know, he would come back and he'd be saying that, you know, he wants his family. And then after a few days, he would decide, no, he wants to go back to Thailand. So we went through this yo-yo for me and the kids. And, you know, I think abandonment, and when they're going through a midlife crisis, what we understood was that he had so much turmoil going on in his head that he didn't know what he wanted. And so he didn't want to lose what he had, but he also didn't want to lose what he'd got, and because that looks exciting. You know, often we need to just try and work through whatever situation we've got coming up. But the bottom line is, ladies, you know, there's one person we can control. We can't control anybody else. We can only control us and the way that we react and the way that we can process through the pain. And the pain is real. You know, we all know what it feels like, where your heart literally feels like it's broken and in a million pieces on the floor. And of course, that comes with physical symptoms as well. So many ladies feel sick and lose weight and, you know, go into a negative, you know, spiral of emotional depression and get stuck in their head. But what we need to do is not allow it to define who we are. You know, we need to save ourselves, and in saving ourselves, we will help our kids and we will be the best person we can be through this. And I want to encourage you to, you know, shine afterwards, to be able to heal and grow and learn to rebuild your life, because you're only halfway through. You've got 20, 30, 40 years of living. And I don't want you to stay stuck, because you've got the rest of this beautiful part of our life. Like, I think we're at such a great age. And that's why I love working with ladies at this age, is we've done the hard yards for most of us. You know, we've done our child rearing, we've been a good wife, good mum, and now it's our time to reset and start our new life. And, you know, I just encourage you to have faith that you can get through this, because I totally believe you can. I see it every single day of the week. And the first thing we've got to do is control our mind. And we've got to then get new tools, because we're not equipped to go through these things with the tool set and skills that we had. because if we knew better, we would have done better. If we knew how to grow our relationships and mend them and co-create with our husbands, we would have done that. So it's no blame here. It's just if we want more than what we've got to become more ourselves. So we've got to lift our own standards of what we've been accepting from ourselves and from other people, and learn how to go forward, with dignity and grace, not with fear and, judgment and condemnation and, hate and bitterness. That's no way to live. When you're trying to punish someone else and you want them to hurt because they've hurt you, there's no winning in that. It's just going to make you miserable. It's going to make you unhappy. Whereas the best thing you can do is get out there and have an amazing new life, and to empower yourself to be able to do that. And it's absolutely possible for you.
So yeah, thank you so much, guys. This has been really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And yeah, if we can help you out at all in any other way, let us know, and we'll see you soon. See you guys. Have a good night.
See you guys. Love you.